All right, welcome back. You may already have started Christmas shopping, or maybe your kid has seen that all the other neighborhood kids have those e-bikes. And
You're a good parent
says,
if you did.
Yeah, yeah, and says, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, I want to get one of those things." I've even looked into potentially whether or not I live like 6 miles away from here. Maybe I trade in my car with gas prices the way they are right now and get an e-bike and just commute down here, right? Like everybody's looking at e-bikes. They are becoming more and more popular. Well, a lot of people use Amazon to buy all sorts of things. It's kind of crazy that you can even buy an e-bike there. Well, you may notice some fewer options there on Amazon. The company says it's pulling certain models from its California marketplace because they exceed state speed limits. News 8's Shannon Handy explains.
In California, pedal assist e-bikes can exceed 28 miles per hour. For throttle assist, it's 20. Still, people who live here could go on Amazon and order faster ones. That is until now.
Very happy to hear that Amazon has taken that step.
Ian Hembury is a big proponent of e-bikes.
They're a great tool for mobility.
He rides one daily to his job at the San Diego County Bike Coalition.
They're clean energy. They do not cost very much to power. And when you compare that to the cost of filling up a tank of gas or for an electric car, getting the battery filled, it really is no competition.
But he also sees the risks. He worries about riders, especially kids, using them unsafely.
We hate looking outside and seeing all of the stories about kids that are riding super dangerously and going way too fast.
Nationwide, e-bike injuries and deaths have surged in recent years. So have sales, from 50,000 in 2018 to more than 527,000 in 2022, according to market research firm Circana. Amazon is a major seller, even though some models on its site exceed California's legal speed limits. The issue often starts with manufacturers who market high-speed vehicles as e-bikes when they should be classified as mopeds or motorcycles.
The bike can be advertised to you as an e-bike, and once you buy it, then you find out. And so there are some efforts at the state level to try and fix that.
Amazon's new ban is one of those efforts. It comes 1 month after State Attorney General Rob Bonta issued a consumer alert reminding people about e-bike safety laws. An Amazon spokesperson says the company is now removing listings that don't comply with California law. Bonta's office applauded the move, telling News 8, "The safety of our communities requires manufacturers, sellers, and buyers, including parents, to know and comply with California's e-bike laws."
We hope this is a sign of things to come in the state, because Amazon is not the only retailer that is selling these kinds of devices.
Earlier this year, San Diego Senator Catherine Blakespear introduced Senate Bill 1167, which would ban manufacturers from marketing vehicles that exceed 28 miles per hour as standard e-bikes. The bill is still making its way through the legislative process. Shannon Handy, News 8.
All right, Shannon, e-bikes. You've got them in your neighborhood, right?
Oh, yeah, I live in Pacific Beach,
Yeah,
so
you
I
can't
see
avoid
them everywhere.
You probably had them before most.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal. It's a little complicated, but
Yeah.
basically we know that e-bikes are dangerous. There's been a huge rise in injuries and deaths, and this isn't just me saying this. Statistically, that's the truth. And so what we're seeing is this push with local leaders, state leaders. You know, for example, in La Mesa last night, they just implemented an ordinance where anyone 12 and under cannot ride an e-bike. So now this is a push at the state level. So essentially what you heard in that story is that in California, this is a law for the whole state. Now, different municipalities have different rules with the age of who can ride an e-bike, et cetera. But in California, if it's considered an e-bike, 28 miles per hour for pedal assist is the fastest it can go. Okay. That's it. If it's throttle assist, it's 20. So what's happening is you go on Amazon, you search e-bike, and these bikes advertise themselves as e-bikes, and then you get them and you realize, this is probably closer to a motorcycle or a moped. This can go 40 miles per hour.
Right.
And so technically you can't ride those on the streets in California. And so the Attorney General was like, we got to put a stop to this. And Amazon listened, and they are. In fact, I did reach out to Amazon yesterday, and they responded, and they said, yes, we are in the process of taking all those ads down.
So they didn't even push back on this at all. I mean, I imagine that it may have been hard for them because these are essentially illegal products in the state of California, but they were pretty just like, yeah, okay, they're going to be off the market.
Exactly. And here's the problem. It's more of a bigger issue. I mean, this is a good step. It's that manufacturers, there's no rule right now that it has to say on the manufacturer's description, this exceeds the speed limit in your state, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's going to be the next step where manufacturers have to actually disclose, how fast does this go? Does it break any laws? But so manufacturers don't have to say, please check with your local authorities to see if this is legal. The state is saying, if you're going to go above 28 miles per hour, whether it's in California, anywhere, you should be saying this is a moped or a motorcycle, but you're literally displaying it as an e-bike, and that's illegal. So there's a lot of different steps involved with this process. This is a good start. The problem is it's not just Amazon. The person I was interviewing yesterday from the San Diego County Bike Coalition, Ian, he was saying, I went on Walmart this morning just to kind of check it out, and you can still buy these faster e-bikes on Walmart. So remember when marijuana was illegal and it was like federal versus state?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of one of those situations where you have different rules elsewhere, and here we are in California trying to really mitigate what goes on here because, of course, of all the crashes and injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned La Mesa, and that was what was one of the really interesting things is because it's like for level 1 and level 2, kids 12 and under. But a lot of people were wondering, well, what about level 3, which of course is the faster ones? Well, they already had something on the books, which was for 16 and under. And 16, of course, as many of you know, is the legal age for driving a motor vehicle in most states, and if not all of them. And so it is interesting to see, and I'm curious what the Bike Coalition thought about this. I don't know if this came up. Are they pro e-bike in the sense that, like, you are seeing a lot of them that are very fast and that get tricked out to go fast? And when does it cease becoming a bike in their opinion?
Okay, so interesting question. Ian, who I interviewed, he rides an e-bike every single day.
Okay, cool.
And while we were doing the interview and we were downtown at their offices, every single employee that came in to work had an e-bike with them. Wow. I noticed this. So I asked him about that. I said, obviously you're pro e-bike, or you're going against what you should be believing because you're riding them. And he said, no, we actually love e-bikes. We think it's great. We think it's a great mode of transportation. It's cheaper than gas prices, and it gets you around the city. He's like, what we don't like are these kids, mostly kids, who use them in an unsafe manner. I mean, they're popping wheelies, they're going in and out of traffic, they're not obeying the rules. He said, if people ride these e-bikes as they should be ridden and follow the rules of the road, we will all be so much safer. So they are absolutely pro e-bike. They are anti people who ride them unsafely.
Yeah. Are they working with any of this? I know there have been a number of different cities that have put in these bans, obviously. We have Poway, Carlsbad, La Mesa just recently. Are they working with any other cities on trying to make sure that this is something that I know the state put down, and a lot of the cities have to get in line with what the state has put on? Are they working with any cities about trying to make sure that kids are going to be safer?
That didn't come up in our interview yesterday, but they definitely, are a good resource and advocacy group for that type of thing. So, any municipality in the county that needs advice on that can obviously go to them, and they will, step in and give their advice. What they are pushing for right now, and it was mentioned in the story, is there is a bill running through the Senate right now that was introduced by a local senator, Senator Blakespeare, which would hopefully fix this advertising problem. So they're saying manufacturers should not be allowed to call something an e-bike if it goes above 28 miles per hour. They should call it a motorcycle or moped. So that is something they are pushing. They're behind. But yeah, it's a slow burning candle, as they say. I mean, it's like we see some improvements, but it's very slow. But we are seeing momentum, because think about, La Mesa now banning this. We saw the same thing in Carlsbad. So we are seeing some traction. And honestly, if you look at the numbers, it's needed, because it's really scary. UCSD did a study, and I don't have it in front of me. So I do know, however, and I believe it was between the years of 2018 and 2022. Don't quote me on that. But injuries, according to their study, e-bike injuries went up 300%.
Wow. So
it's definitely something we should be paying attention to. And if you're a parent, I see these kids in my neighborhood, and you saw them in those videos. They're popping wheelies, and they're wearing helmets. They're in and out of traffic. I know you're not with your parents 24/7, so your parents probably don't realize what you're doing, but you really need to instill these rules at home and say, look, if I get word that you're doing any of this, that e-bike's gone.
I know, but and I think part of the problem too is that there does seem to be a culture, especially with kids, right? Like it's almost like a peer pressure thing that, like, if you don't have an e-bike by the time you're in middle school, then mom, what's going on, right? And
It's like cell phones.
Yeah, it feels a lot like what we were dealing with cell phones from an early on stage.
Right, and e-bikes are getting less expensive
Yeah.
because there's so many in the market right now. So it used to be, e-bikes were $1,000 and up. And
I was looking at those prices in
Right.
our video. I
Yeah.
was like, that's actually not
yeah,
bad.
and a lot of families, of course, can't afford that. But if you find an e-bike for $400 or $500, and in your mind you're like, well, this means I don't have to drive my kid to school anymore. I save on the gas. For a lot of these families, it's more accessible now. And yeah, the pressure with these kids, but these kids, not all. So I don't want to blanket statement, but
non-blanket statement. Yeah.
the videos we have, by the way,
Oh, it's insane.
keep in mind, we have photographers that stand on the corner in Carlsbad, Oceanside, wherever they're getting that video. These kids are showing off in front of our cameras. You can see it in the video. They're popping the wheelies like, ooh, look at me. They think they're so cool. It's so dangerous.
One of the more viral videos that I'm not sure if you were referring to was on the 5. You mentioned weaving in and out of traffic. That was the 5, and that was that was during rush hour. That was in the middle of, or I don't, maybe it wasn't or not. I'm not entirely sure, but nonetheless, you're talking about a major U.S. freeway, and we're talking about if they're even street legal on the back roads in your neighborhood. So yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so a lot more on this topic because it is not going away anytime soon.
No, for sure. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us and breaking that down with us.